the elimination of sexual violence and conflict. And this webinar is part of commemoration of this. And so as part of your introduction, we also invite you to share one word in the chat that resonates with you in this moment. Whether it's around prevention, whether it's around addressing impunity, whether it's around sending a solidarity message to survivors and frontline movements. We would like to hear from you in one key word from you as you introduce yourself and connect with other movements across the continent and globally that are commemorating this day. We would also like you to know that this webinar is being broadcast in French, in Portuguese, and in Arabic. So please access the interpretation channel at the bottom of your Zoom interface where you see a globe that has interpretation. Click on it and choose the language of those three that you're most comfortable with. We will allow another minute for people to introduce themselves before we can start. And also thank you for taking the time to mention some of those keywords. I can see healing, I can see unity, resilience, I see peace, justice. In fact, for some, it's not just one word, it's a sentence, a message carrying the passion and intent to address this issue. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the moderator for this webinar, who is Françoise Moduthe from the African Women's Development Fund. Welcome, Françoise.
Gina, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, good day. Thank you so much for being here. I see there's almost 100 of us here, which is a testament of you taking your time, to be in this conversation is something we don't take for granted. So we appreciate you. Thank you for being here. My name is Françoise Moduthe. I head the African Women's Development Fund, and I am really delighted to have you all here with me and with us. So first of all, I would like to say a huge thank you to our partners with whom the African Women's Development Fund is co-convening this webinar, this conversation, namely Amnesty International and the Women's International Peace Center. We've been working together over the past 2 weeks, and it's truly been an inspiring opportunity to connect, to learn, to share, and to really host this together. You are all very welcome to this conversation, this webinar. As Dina said, today is the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. This is a topic that is heavy, and I want to some of the things that will be discussed today are quite difficult to hear. And so, if you need to take a break, if you need, to take a breath, please do. We have to have those difficult conversations because what our people are experiencing is so hard, and we must bear witness and speak our voices and call for justice and accountability, which is what we will do today. Today, we will have a discussion that is quite rich. We'll start with a keynote, which I will introduce a bit later, and then we'll have several voices from the frontline first, and then have a bit of a discussion about what does that all
I think we lost Francoise. Yeah, we lost Francoise, and so we'll give her a minute to rejoin. But as she rejoins, just to encourage those who have just joined us, that please take a minute to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. Let us know your name. And as Francoise had started sharing, it's the International Day on the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. So would like to know from you one word that resonates for you with the moment that we're in and the issue at hand. Thank you so much for those who have already posted. And also those who have just joined, please note that there is interpretation from English to French, English to Arabic, English to Portuguese. And if you go below on your Zoom platform where there is a globe icon, you would be able to access interpretation in those various languages. We will take a minute to see if Francoise is rejoining. All right. So as we wait, I will step in and continue from where Francoise has stopped. And so Francoise had started to talk about the partners with whom this webinar has been organized. And so we would like to acknowledge Amnesty International and the Women's International Peace Center, with whom we have been working closely with to be able to hold this space. But also, I would also like to acknowledge the different frontline voices that are part of this conversation, and also those that are joining us from the different parts of the continent and globally. I think we have Francoise now. Yes, Francoise, if you can take on from.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I am so very sorry. Technology is my enemy of progress today. I hope you can hear me now well. And so, Dina, I don't know where you left off, but I think maybe what we wanted to say is that what we really hope to do today is to, first of all, hold space for those who have lost their lives, but also who are surviving and who have survived sexual violence in conflict-related spaces. We also want to mobilize awareness and continue to raise consciousness on this very important issue that is often ignored. We want to listen really to those who are doing the work to address this scourge across the continent in several places. And we want to, of course, affirm solidarity and together demand justice and accountability against what is happening. So yes, I think that's it. What I will do for now is welcome and thank you once again for your time and hand over to our partner, Patience Nakiranda from the Women's International Peace Center to lead us into a short solidarity moment. Patience, over to you.
Thank you, Francoise. Welcome everyone to this meeting. My name is Patience Nakiranda.
I work with the Women's International Peace Center, and I'm happy to be here with you as we commemorate the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. I would like us to take this moment and this very minute to pause, to feel, to remember and collectively honor the countless lives of women and girls whose lives have been lost to sexual violence as a deliberate weapon of war, those who live and continue to live with pain, whose stories have been silenced, and those still fighting for justice. These are our sisters, these are our mothers, our friends, our aunties, our grandmothers, and in some instances, these are ourselves. And so, as we reflect, I would like us to know that Africa has many faces, or Africa's conflicts have many faces: political, ethnic, colonial, economic, but across them all, we can all agree that one pattern remains: the brunt of unspeakable violence. We remember the women of Goma and Ituri in this very moment, those who were raped and killed by the militias, the young girls and women in Sudan and Darfur, assaulted and abducted into forced marriages, the survivors in Tigray who watched as their mothers were killed and villages burned, in Nigeria, stolen from their classrooms and are still missing. In Mali and Burkina Faso, extremist groups are using sexual slavery as a weapon of terror. In Cameroon, in Central African Republic, Mozambique, women are living through war twice, once in the public and once in private. But we also remember at this very moment the resistance, the survivors who dared to testify, women rights defenders holding broken systems to account, feminist movements creating safe spaces where governments have failed. And if you would permit me, we would like to commemorate this moment by lighting this candle. If you have a candle on your desk, please go ahead and light it. For those of us that do not have physical candles, you can share in the group. You can have a digital candle or an emoji of a candle and share in memory of the survivors of war conflict, in memory of those you know that are experiencing sexual violence, and type a message in the chat, a solidarity message in the chat. If you can see, this is my candle here on the desk. This is a sign of solidarity, saying we stand with you. I will read out a few messages in the chat in case you would like to share a message. Do share a message at this very minute. And I would like to ask my colleague from the Peace Center, Mwanaisha, to share with us a solidarity message in this same regard, please. May justice prevail in solidarity. Thank you, Flavia. Okay, thank you for those that are typing their messages in the chat. In sisterhood and solidarity always. Thank you, Francis. We hear and we see. We stand with you in these difficult moments. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Doreen. Hashtag lights on for women and girls. We honor survivors. We demand justice in solidarity always. Prayers and solidarity. Always together in prayers. Thank you. Unfortunately, I cannot read French, so I cannot read the French messages. But let's give 1 minute to my colleague here to give us a solidarity message. Then we can carry on with the program. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm called Manisha Musa, and I'm also an artist. And this is something I'm always happy to share with the world. So this is a quick poem written for you. This is for you. This is for you who walked through war with trembling steps and carried silence heavier than bullets. For the ones whose bodies were broken and the battlefield they never chose. This is for you. This is for you. This is for the wounds that do not close, the screams that echo in your sleep, the ache that memory refuses to forget. This is for you. For the women who keep breathing even when the world gave them no air, and for those who let go, not from weakness, but from awareness, too deep I cannot put into words. You are a survivor. You are not your pain. You are not what they did to you. You are not war. You are not ruin. You are not collateral, not conquest, not shame. You are a storm that did not break, a light still burning after the dark, a candle. You are courage draped in skin, wisdom carried in your eyes, and hope walking barefoot in a wounded world. Peace will come. It must. And when it does, it will find us gathered, not just surviving, but rising and lighting. Until then, we remember you, we stand with you, we fight for the world you deserve.
Thank you. Thank you, Mwanaisha. And as I conclude this moment, thank you, sisters, for being here. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. And to the survivors, the fallen, and the fighters, we carry your memory forward. In memory, in resistance, in hope, we stand together. Thank you.
Patience. Thank you, Aisha. We really appreciate your words, and thank you all very much who shared your words of solidarity and your candles, digital candles in the chats. Thank you for that. So at this point, I would like to invite our keynote address speaker, Leima Boy from Liberia, who is a peace activist who is best known for leading a nonviolent movement in Liberia, led by women from across different backgrounds, and who really, with that, played a pivotal role in ending the war in Liberia back in 2003. Since then, Lima has done incredible work in Liberia and across the world, especially for girls' rights, and has continued to be a fierce activist for the end of sexual violence in conflict. She is a 2011 Nobel Peace Prize laureate. She is fiercely committed to women's rights, to peace building, and to empowering women. and girls to participate in peace processes. I'm really delighted to also being able to call her one of my mentors and friends, and to invite her to share some thoughts, a keynote address to all of us on this day as we pursue our goal here today to share some reflections, some thoughts, and solidarity. Lema, welcome. Thank you for being here. Over to you.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you so much. Hi to everyone. I'm extremely delighted. You know, AWDF knows that when they call me, I can't say no. This is my week of rest, but I've taken this few hours off to be here. Good morning, one and all. So I'd like to start with stories because for me, this is not in the stats. When people talk about statistics, statistics are humans. So I always like to start with story. So in 2003, I'm sitting home one day and the Minister of Gender at the time called me to say that they had this little girl who had been violated by her grandfather and they needed a place for her to stay. During the entire period of the war, we heard stories of abuse and rape and everything. And basically, it was stories of women, older women, mature women, young girls, teenagers. But this would be the first time I would interact with a 7-year-old who had been violated. And at the time, remember, we're just coming out of war. There was no safe homes. And since I lived alone, I agreed to take this child. So I had a personal interaction, not just with the story of rape, but I had a personal interaction with the person, the sufferings that she went through. We'll wake up at night and find her lying in the kitchen on the floor. And when we ask her, why did you leave your bed? She'll say, Auntie, everything inside of me is burning. I am so hot. I'm looking for comfort. So the floor apparently in the kitchen was cooler than anywhere else. And she would just come and lie there. I wish I could say after all of the efforts she lived, but she died. The grandfather was arrested and he was thrown in prison. The second story was in 2014, I was in Congo, DR Congo, and it was the last night of our tour from Oriental Province to Bukavu, Kivu. Every other community we went to were sitting in Bukavu, and a doctor from one of the Médecins Sans Frontières took out his phone and showed me the picture of a girl. And he said, how old do you think she is? She really looked like a 9-year-old. And then he said to me, no, she's not 9. She's actually a teenager. She was in one of the mines and she had been repeatedly raped. And when they thought she was about to die, they dragged her out and put her on the road, and someone driving by saw movement of this creature, picked her up and took her to the hospital. And when I saw that picture of her, this was almost 8 months after medication, but she couldn't walk. She was in a wheelchair. And I gave you these two scenarios to say that it's not just it's not just related to Liberia or to DR Congo. And these stories are daily occurrences in our existence, especially for those of us who live through war or those of us who are experiencing war. But the one thing that I would like to say is these issues or the issues of rape and abuse did not just start with the first gunshot being fired. Rape and abuse and I think if you ever have the chance to read that document, as old as it is still relevant today. One of the concluding statements in that document was that the impact of conflict on women's lives is a reflection of the interaction during peacetime. So when there is peace, whatever we see happening in our community is exacerbated. When we have, for example, I grew up in a space where people would beat a woman and the police would come and they would say, take it indoors. There was nothing on domestic violence. There was nothing on rape. It was always, once it was disturbing public peace, then they would get arrested, but it wasn't about beating a woman. So when the war came, that we have a statistics that say 65% of women were allegedly sexually harassed, sexually abused or assaulted, is not a surprise, because these statistics actually start one time I was working and just having a chat, and I asked them, what
I think we're having trouble, Leima.
Of course now.
Leima? Hello? I thought it was me, but it seems that the internet is not respecting what we're trying to do. Oh,
Can you
Leima.
all hear me now?
Oh, yes, this is so much better. Sorry, we lost you about
So tell me where you lost me.
I think you were talking about a document, and you mentioned a point about how what happens in peace is exacerbated. I don't know how to say that in English. In times of war.
Okay, and Francois, I think it's better if you stay on the screen. I'm looking at you, and you can motion to me if I'm going off or staying on. So I was talking about a study that was done, expert assessment done for the then UNIFEM, now UN Women, by President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Elizabeth Wren. And in that document, one of the conclusions was, is women, war, and peace? One of the conclusions of the study was that the impact of conflict on women's lives is a reflection of the interactions during peacetime. So everything that we see happening doesn't start from the firing of the guns. It starts from the interaction during peace, so-called peace times. So I'll give an example again. In Liberia, when I was growing up, I would see people beat their wives. And when the police came, it wasn't to arrest the partners. It was basically to tell them to stop disturbing public peace. So as a young girl, domestic violence was equated to public peace. And we didn't have any laws on rape. We didn't have any laws on abuse. So that we had 65% of women in our population allegedly raped, assaulted, harassed, or abused during our war is not a surprise. But I'll give another example. When I was working in 1998 with child soldiers, one day we're sitting and talking about different things, and I asked them, did you rape anyone? And they were like, no, we didn't rape anyone. I recognized I didn't understand the question. So the next question was, did you force any woman to have sex? And they said, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, isn't that what women were made for? Fast forward, 2007, my kids live in Ghana. Ghana have never gone through war. And I'm just giving this example to see the parallel in so-called peacetime. And my daughter, who is a fierce feminist, at the time she volunteered with AWDF, of course, Pudu, goes to school, and she was probably 8 or 9 at the time, jumping around. Today is International Women's Day. You all should respect the girls and treat us nicely. And this little boy said to her, shut up and sit down. What are women made for but to have babies? When she came home and narrated the story to me, I said to myself, if you put a gun in that child's hand, he's going to give you the same response that these boys gave when I worked with them. So there is something in our society, there's something in our social structure, there's something in everything that we do is making it to look as if this is normal. And then we go to war And this normalized abuse of women or subtle abuse of women is taken out of context. So what do we do? And I think I say it's time for us to revise, revisit, and restructure, review. I think this is the time for us to revisit, revise, restructure, review first our media projection of women in so-called peacetime and in wartime. It is not okay for us to continue to be hyped about everything that is sexualized in our media, because the over-sexualization of our media is contributing to some of this problem. It's time for us to look at our curriculum. It is not okay for a little girl today to go to school and is embarrassed to tell her friends that mommy drives because the teacher is telling everyone that it's daddies who drive. So we need to look at all of those projections in our school curriculum, especially from elementary. It is not okay. I mean, it's time for us to look at the systems and structures in our society, the policies that have failed us. It's time for us to push for its implementation. It's time for us to stand up and speak about our religious practices that continue to push us in the corners and say, this is okay, this is time. No, it's time for us to say no, to fight against it. At one point in time, I became president of my church women's organization, and there was literally a riot because I wasn't married at the time, and everyone was appalled that the women voted for someone who wasn't married. It's time for us to put our feet down. If we can pay tithes and offerings, we should be able to say, because God did not create one gender, he created both genders. And these are the things. It's time for us to talk about systems and structures that are oppressive and suppressive to women. It's time for us to look at our political system. We are the voters. The system that glorifies toxic masculinity. It's time for us to look at those systems. It's time for us to look at those systems that make sexual violence during conflict happen. And as I said earlier, it's not just when they fire the guns. It's in peacetime. And I'm focusing on it because, yes, what is happening in Congo, what is happening in all of the different places is happening now, and we have to look for ways to deal with it. But what is happening in communities that are not at war, it's time for us to begin to speak about it to avert any future problems. As we talk about sexual violence in conflict, one of the things that I want to say is, one of the points that I have to make, or some suggestions that I would give, it's time for us to step into spaces where we find allies, men who will speak, join us, powerful men who understand. So let me give you an example. And I know this is a feminist meeting and we want to do it, but we have to agree that in some spaces we can do it all. In 2008, we went to Wilton Park, and I'm not just telling you stories. I'm telling you real life events. We're at Wilton Park and we're discussing same issue, sexual violence in conflict. A lawmaker from Uganda stands in that meeting and say, oh, in some of our cultures, it's okay for men to give their wives to visit us. So he didn't see any problem with sexual violence. Of course, there was a riot because they had to hold me down and every other feminist in that room. And then when they started talking about peacekeepers doing firewood brigade for women in conflict contexts like Congo, that when they're going for water or firewood, this is when it's more dangerous. Some of the generals were so upset that their military training would be reduced to mere bodyguards of local women. General Festus Okonkwo, peace be unto him, stood in that meeting and put a very vivid picture of a woman whose case in Liberia had taken a very deep turn. This woman was violated several times. A small tree was inserted in her vagina. And like literally, he put that picture on the screen, and I'm being vivid. I apologize, but this is what he put on the screen. And he asked every soldier in the room to look at that image and said to them, who in their right mind can see something like this happen when you're a force commander and still go home and look at your wife and your daughter the same way? He said, no one, this is not about your military training. It's not about where you go to. It's about humanity. And I think this is the moment for us to begin to challenge these people, go into rooms with raw stories, because the more we talk about statistics, the more it becomes difficult for them to understand the gravity of the issue of sexual violence. This is a moment for us to carry raw images to them, because these images are not just images in a movie, it's images of our neighbors, of our sisters, of our friends, of people who have been violated in ways that has never happened. So it's time for us to go to the UN and put some of these things up there. Let every man flinch and ask them questions that, if this was your daughter, if this was your wife, will you be decisive? Will you take decisive action on this? The second thing that I believe we should do is to begin to support local women who are supporting these women. Again, I gave an example of being in Congo. I go with a Nobel delegation and we invite these 100 women to sit, and each of them in the room start to talk about their abuse. And one girl gave me her baby to hold because I'm addicted to children. And she said to me, she was raped, she was taken to the hospital, but they have this group of women, community women, who will go into hospitals and help, and they'll bring clothes, and they'll bring this, and they'll bring that. And those women with that structure, not an NGO structure, have been the emotional support for each other, have been the system and structure for helping each other get empowered, and all of the different things. Another group in Congo that I'm very proud of is Sofapadi, Julien Lusange, and the Fund for Congolese Women. They continue to break barriers. And one of the things that broke my heart was that whilst we're in Congo, Julien was going from government officials to governors to pay them for $100 here, $200 there, to help them fund some of the projects. And I make all of these cases to us to say that this problem is not going away until we can find a multifaceted approach to it, until we can be aggressively aggressive about our strategy. We'll continue to come every year and celebrate the rape and the abuse of women. Where is hope? Hope is in all of those women at the community level who continues to show each other that at the end of the day, we stand stronger than the cowards that come and rape with the barrel of the guns. In addition of authority, it is our duty now to support the work of all of these women. Thank you so much, Francois, for having me, and you all have an amazing time in discussing this issue. I stand ready to join campaigns to lend my name and to be that one to give those vivid pictures in rooms where powerful men sit and still see sexual violence as a plaything.
Thank you so much, Lema. I'm so appreciative of what you shared with us. It was hard, but it was important. And a few things that really stayed with me that you said is what you said about what we need to do in times of peace. That the violence doesn't start with the firing of the gun. Also, you're appealing to our common humanity. And I think those messages are very important right now, because we tend to say, oh, this is over there. It's not us, but it's all of us. And it's what we are responsible to challenging patriarchy in peaceful times, as well as how it manifests during violent times. Thank you so much. Also, for reminding us that this is not something that we can just expect that will continue to happen. Thank you for reminding us that there are some specific things that we can do, and we have to do all of these things together and to find hope and inspiration in those who are leading this work at the community level. Lema, thank you. You are such an inspiration. We appreciate your voice, your time. Sorry for taking you away from your rest. I hope you're going straight back to bed. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Lema. Whew. Okay. Yes, Sarah, thank you for lifting that in the chat. I was also writing this down. Us being stronger than those cowards who come to rape them with the barrel of a gun in hand. All right. Okay, so let's all take a breath. with gratitude again for Lema for her powerful presence and words. I would like to invite the first panel to join us. This first panel is really about hearing directly from those inspiring women and activists that Lema spoke about. So we have voices from the Frontline from Sudan and the DRC. I would like to invite Justine Masika Bihamba. Bienvenue, Justine. Welcome. And Yusra Akash. Please join us. You are joining us respectively from the DRC and from Sudan. Please, can you join us? Colleagues, can you please also spotlight Yusra? Justine, bonjour, welcome, bienvenue. So, do we still have Yusra? Yes, okay. All right. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining. I will ask a few questions, and then you are welcome to maybe each of you first introduce yourself. I will never try and introduce you because I'm like the richness of all you do. I will let you do that yourselves. But we are very grateful for your time, for your work first, what you do every day. And for taking the time to share that with us today. So we have invited you to come and describe a little bit about the context in which you are working, what is happening, what does conflict-related sexual violence look like, feel like, how does it manifest where you are in the DRC and Sudan, where we have some of the most true to women conflicts that we are experiencing on the continent at the moment. And also how you see women's rights organizations, feminist organizations and activists and survivors organizing, and please tell us what you're seeing, but also what you think they need and what you call all of us here to do. So I'm going to invite Justine first to share your thoughts. Please start with introducing yourself and then share some thoughts with us, and then I'll turn to yourself. Thank you again for being here. Justine? À vous.
OK. Merci beaucoup, Françoise. Merci aux organisateurs de ces assises. Merci pour cette opportunité pour que nous puissions encore une fois parler de la situation de la femme, surtout dans la partie est de la République démocratique du Congo. Comme vous le savez, notre pays est dans la guerre depuis plus de 30 ans. Mais depuis les 3 dernières années, c'est là où encore la situation de la guerre s'est aggravée. Et lorsqu'il y a des crépitements de balles, malheureusement, il y a toujours les femmes et les jeunes filles qui payent les lourds tributs. Aujourd'hui, la situation est... Je viens de Goma, je suis Masika Bihamba. Je suis de la synergie des femmes pour les victimes de violences sexuelles. Et actuellement, comme ma ville est occupée par les rebelles, j'ai pu fuir pour sauver ma vie. Donc, je ne suis pas en RDC pour le moment. Dans le contexte des conflits, malheureusement, nous avons remarqué que le viol est toujours utilisé comme arme de guerre. C'est pour détruire. Aujourd'hui, je sais que Lema n'a pas voulu parler des statistiques, mais pour montrer la gravité, nous sommes toujours obligés de parler des statistiques. Oui, une femme violée, c'est déjà grave. Une jeune fille violée, c'est grave. Mais aujourd'hui, à l'est de la RDC, on parle d'une jeune femme ou d'une fille violée toutes les 4 minutes. Donc, avec la guerre, il y a la situation qui s'est vraiment aggravée. Nous avons un problème humanitaire grave, surtout dans les villes de Goma et de Bukavu, là où les aéroports ne fonctionnent pas, les banques ne fonctionnent pas. Donc, il n'y a même pas moyen d'acheminer l'aide humanitaire. Et l'aide humanitaire n'est pas accessible à cause des banques même qui sont fermées et la coupure du financement de l'USAID qui supportait au moins à 70% l'aide humanitaire. Aujourd'hui, il y a des centres à Goma qui sont fermés puisqu'ils n'ont plus d'appui pour pouvoir accueillir des femmes et des filles victimes de violences sexuelles. Ce qui est vrai est que vous connaissez les contextes. Il y a eu plus de 7 millions de déplacés à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo et 2,7 millions déplacés dans les camps autour de Goma. Et ces déplacés, il y avait des personnes qui ont des armes, comme l'a dit Leïma. Malheureusement, ils utilisent les armes pour nous intimider et pour nous violer et surtout pour nous ôter notre vie. Et ces gens qui ont des armes, ils ont été dans le camp et ils ont commis beaucoup de viols. Lorsque les femmes allaient chercher de l'eau, lorsque les femmes allaient chercher du bois, donc les statistiques, comme je l'ai dit, ils sont alarmantes. Mais ce que nous disons pour les organisations de femmes, les organisations de femmes n'ont pas baissé les bras. Ils ont été toujours là, avec les moyens limités. Et aujourd'hui, même pendant l'occupation, il y a toujours les organisations de femmes qui sont là, qui continuent à aider les femmes victimes de violences sexuelles. Ce qui est vrai, l'aide humanitaire est très limitée, mais nous essayons d'orienter les femmes vers les structures comme Médecins sans frontières et d'autres structures qui prennent en charge les victimes de violences sexuelles. On ne peut pas parler de la justice. Là, avant la prise des villes de Goma et de Bukavu, on disait que l'accès à la justice est lente et elle est coûteuse. Donc, aujourd'hui, il n'y a même pas la justice qui existe et les victimes ne savent pas quoi faire lorsqu'il y a des personnes qui sont violées. Et j'ai discuté avec une maman qui me disait, aujourd'hui, on se sent irresponsable, nous les parents. Avant, on avait peur de nos filles qui vont se faire violer. Mais aujourd'hui, même les garçons, ils sont soit enrôlés de force dans les groupes armés et ils sont aussi torturés et violés même lorsqu'on les prenne par force. Donc, la situation des parents dans les zones occupées et même à l'est de la RDC, puisqu'il y a des atrocités qui sont commises en Ituri et l'Ituri n'est pas occupé, mais il y a la présence des groupes armés. Mais ce que je vais dire aujourd'hui est que nous avons besoin de l'ouverture d'un couloir humanitaire, puisque là, il y a des personnes qui sont en train de perdre leur vie. Nous avons besoin du respect des droits humanitaires, puisque les parties en conflit doivent savoir que les gens qui sont occupés, les gens qui sont dans la guerre, ils ont droit au respect de la vie et surtout à l'accès aux soins de santé et à l'accès aux structures de base. Mais aussi, ce que je vais demander est que les bailleurs de fonds puissent voir comment continuer à aider surtout les organisations féminines, puisqu'elles sont toujours à la ligne de front, elles sont toujours présentes, et de voir comment on peut aider surtout ces femmes qui travaillent pour les autres, ces femmes qui exposent leur vie pour aider les autres. Là, j'appelle la solidarité de toutes les personnes qui peuvent nous écouter aujourd'hui pour que nous puissions avoir la paix. Puisque si nous avons la paix dans notre pays, si nous avons la paix, les femmes peuvent aller dans leurs champs, puisqu'on les a obligées même de retourner dans leur milieu. Et dans leur milieu, ils ont perdu leur maison, elles ont perdu leur maison, elles ont perdu leur champ, elles ont tout perdu. Donc là, j'en appelle à tout le monde pour que nous puissions avoir la paix. Puisque si nous avons la paix à l'est de la RDC, les droits de la femme seront respectés, malgré les conjonctures, malgré tout ce que nous traversons dans les systèmes patriarcaux, mais quand même, les femmes vont respirer. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Justine. Thank you. Justine, you said something that really stuck with me. You said, wherever we hear a bullet fired, a woman is suffering. And I think that's very important. And you also said something, you said 1 rape every 4 minutes, which means that in the time that we'll spend together here, is the 2 hours, there will be 30 women raped. And that is, you know, stories and statistics really are both equally important. Thank you for reminding us of that, and also for sharing a very clear call to action for peace. First, for the humanitarian corridor. I don't know if that you say English. And then also for funding for the defenders and the women-led organizations on the ground. Thank you so much. Merci, Justine. Thank you very, very much for sharing your experiences and your voice. Please be safe. We are glad that you are safe.
Mais est-ce que je peux ajouter quelque chose?
Of course. Bien sûr.
Oui, est-ce que je peux ajouter quelque chose?
Bien sûr, Justine.
Oui, et je voulais seulement dire que notre travail de 20 jours de l'accompagnement des femmes victimes des conflits, nous l'avions écrit dans un livre qui est sorti aux éditions L'Aube, Femmes debout face à la guerre. Et il y a sa version anglaise qui dit Women Resist War, qu'on peut trouver partout sur Amazon et qui va aider à connaître notre travail. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Justine. Thank you. So we take note of these resources. We want to share a few resources after this webinar. So we'll make sure to include the English and French versions of this book so that we can all find a way to learn more about your work. Merci. Thank you, Justine, so much. Let me turn to you, Yosra. I'm going to ask you exactly the same question. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit and then share perspectives from Sudan. We are all ears. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Francois. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are joining us from. My name is Yusra Saber, or Yusra Akasha. I am a journalist, feminist writer, and activist from Sudan, currently living in Nairobi. So I would like to start with the slogan of the International Anti-Genocide Movement since the 1940s, which it has been never again. Genocide in the form of using sexual violence in conflict as a tool of forced displacement and humiliating communities. Unfortunately, it is happening again, at least in Sudan. It has been happening for decades now. So sexual violence in conflict has been like an epidemic in all the conflicts in Sudan since its independence up to today. And the fact that it has been happening with no proper accountability, no involvement of justice and reparation measures in any peace deal that happened in the past few decades, it enabled the perpetrators to continue to perpetrate sexual violence. Unfortunately, sexual violence in Sudan has been part of the collective memory of the Sudanese people. Women bodies has been and are being weaponized in those conflicts, including the recent April 2023 conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces, which also spiraled to include more actors in the past 2 years. And it's becoming a threat to social cohesion and peaceful coexistence between the various components of the Sudanese community. Sudanese people, especially women and girls, are being targeted because of their gender, ethnicity, and also class identities. They are becoming perceived enemies for one or more than one of the conflict parties in a conflict that they did not start or become an active part of. It's undoubtedly that the rapid support forces bear the responsibility of the majority of sexual violence crimes in this conflict, but there are also accounts of sexual violence committed by the Sudanese armed forces and their allied militias. And here I'd like to quote a colleague who is still based in Khartoum and working as a first responder there. She's saying there are a lot of violations from the Sudanese armed forces and its allied militias. People feel indicted to the Sudanese armed forces and the militias for saving them from the literal living hell of the rapid support forces. Therefore, no one dare to mention the Sudanese armed forces violations, specifically sexual violence. There is a serious issue of getting the survivors of sexual violence committed by the Sudanese armed forces the support they need, let alone document those crimes for the sake of justice and accountability in the future. The documentation of sexual violence in the past 2 years, or slightly more than 2 years, showed horrific accounts of human rights violations. Those crimes involve torture and inhuman treatment and slavery of women. When also it involves the violation of the Convention Against Torture. It's a tool for humiliation, mass displacement, and it's undoubtedly also could mount as crimes against humanity and war crimes. But the clear cases for this was the sexual violence committed in Al Junaina in West Darfur in June 2023, in which the majority of the Masalit tribe were forced to leave actually their homes. They suffered from organized mass sexual violence, killings, among other violations. And the same actually happened in Al Jazeera state in central Sudan. But for the sexual violence that happened in Al Jazeera, it received very much less attention from regional international organizations and the media as well. And I believe that's because it does not fit within the framing of that is old framing that is being used in the conflicts in Sudan, that Arab militias are killing people of African descent, because people in Al Jazeera are also Arabs. But still, it was a tool for humiliation and to enforce mass displacement. So women in Sudan has bear the responsibility of and paid the price actually of the state failure in providing and investing in sexual and reproductive health services. And that was even before the war. The service provision for the survivors of sexual violence was very limited from state institutions. And now with the current scale of those crimes, there is a serious need to provide those services to the survivors and of course their communities as a whole. So with literally the absence of the state in providing those health services, psychosocial support, and trauma healing, civil society organizations, specifically feminist and women's rights organizations, stepped in to fill in this gap. And they have been doing so relentlessly since day one, even though the need is quite huge when it's compared to the available resources and capacities of those organizations. So basically, there is a serious need for sexual violence response services to be part of the humanitarian response, not only with a localized effort in response to the conflict, because this has been the major effort, are the community response to the humanitarian crisis, but also internationally, because so far there is very little international response to the humanitarian needs in Sudan, including the response to sexual violence. So basically, women and girls and the organization, the women-led organizations, has been the champions for the Sudanese people and the Sudanese communities in addressing sexual violence in this conflict. And this has to translate, if we want to break this cycle of militarization, conflict, and then going back again, excuse me. Granting impunity to the perpetrator. Those women now at the front lines of the response, excuse me, at the front line of the response to the sexual violence crisis in Sudan has to be at the heart of the any political process and any peace process that happens in Sudan. So they have to be part of the process. They have to shape the agenda of what Sudan should look like for women, girls, and gender diverse people. And if that happens, I think at least that would be a model for achieving justice for women, girls, and gender diverse people who suffered from gender-based violence and sexual violence in conflict. And we will model for the next generations that it's not okay for those crimes to happen again, and we should put an end to this crisis in Sudan, and also not only in Sudan, in the continent overall. Like my heart goes to Justine and to the women of DRC Congo. So what we need solidarity, we need resources to provide the response, the humanitarian response needed to the survivors of sexual violence. We need it to be part of our history that don't fuel further grudges, but rather pave the way for a peaceful feminist Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusra. And thank you for correcting me in how to pronounce your name. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing what you shared and for the analysis and the work that you do. As I was listening to you and linking it with what Justine also shared with us, something that came to mind is the first thing that you said was about saying never again. And yet, in both of the contexts, we are looking at cycles that keep coming back. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, that what we're trying to do is not fix the current problems, but really have a long-lasting peace and solutions to the violence that we are seeing. But also, I heard you speak to the fact that the sexual violence in Sudan is really inflicted by all warring parties, and it links me to the work that was said. So the word that was shared earlier about narratives and how it's important to name the things just the way they are. And lastly, another reflection as I was listening to you both is how interconnected things are. Both interconnected different issues. I mean, you spoke to this a little bit, but also how we must think of it in an intersectional ways. I mean, you did name women, girls, and gender diverse people you spoke about racism as well as misogyny. And earlier, Justine also spoke to the fact that, when we talk about eliminating sexual violence in conflicts, in that context, it also means boys. So thank you for reminding us of thinking about this in an interconnected and intersectional way. Thank you both again, Yusra and Justine, for sharing your thoughts, your experiences, your analysis from both Sudan and the DRC. It was very hard to even decide who to invite, because unfortunately there's so many other places on the continent and across the world that we are seeing this issue come, and we know that as you speak, the experiences from other contexts also resonate, and we have to do the work to reach beyond what we can present in 2 hours here. So thank you very much for your time. We're going to take a short artistic break before we go into the second round of the conversation. And so I would like to ask my colleagues to share a pre-recorded video from Ethiopian creative artist Lady Lensamo. Ethiopia is yet another place where sexual violence is rampant in the current conflict. So we're delighted to hear that perspective, but with the artistic perspective. We will first listen to the contribution, and then we will invite Lady to explain a little bit what we would have just listened to. Okay, colleagues, can you please start the video? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leli Lensamo. I am honored to lend my voice to this gathering today, and I'm showing up not just as an artist, but as a witness to pain, to silence, and to courage of those who have endured and who have survived sexual violence across our region. And I want to say that you're not alone, you're not broken, and your body belongs to you. And I want to dedicate this next song, as a balm, as a remembering, and as a grand rising. And as a mental health advocate, and as someone who is passionate about healing through art, I have come to learn that the voice is both literally and symbolically. The voice is what's taken from us first from enduring a trauma. And today I'm here as someone who has reclaimed her voice. I reclaim my voice. May we all reclaim our voice. May we keep singing. May we keep speaking, and may we keep showing up even when our voice trembles. Thank you so much. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movies and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Yes, it will. Then I go to my brother. I said, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa, there's been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Yes it will. I would like to recite a part of a poem by the great Maya Angelou. This poem speaks to my soul, and I would like to recite a part of it. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Thank you so much for this beautiful interlude. Thank you for sharing your voice, literally, and also your message. Lady, we pre-recorded this so that internet would not completely disrupt, but you are here with us and we appreciate your time. Hi, Lady. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. You actually already introduced why you chose, and so is there something else that you wanted to add to this conversation before we move on? We're all still like having chills from the voice. So thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to know if there's something else that you wanted to add.
Thank you so much. I want to say that I am grateful. I am beyond grateful to be a part of this gathering, because I know that the issue at hand is not only important, but it's also personal. And I know that it's a wound which is carried by so many across our region, across our nation. And it's a wound that is carried in silence. And as a mental health advocate, I would like to say that the voice is the first thing that's taken away, that's stolen away from us, from enduring such traumas. And the fact that we are gathered here, we are gathered here acknowledging this problem gives me hope, and it helps me reclaim my power. And I know that it does for so many as well. And I want to express my gratitude to be a part of this gathering. And I chose that song. It's a song by Sam Cooke, and I specifically chose that song because not only for its melody, that song is it carries truth. It's been released since it's been out there since 1964, I think, and that song has been carrying the heavy weight of the truth, and it has also been carrying the heartbeat of hope. And that song reminds me of resilience and the fact that hope could go hand in hand with all that has been endured. And the fact that I am here, honored enough to be in your presence, makes me feel good, and I want to express my gratitude.
Thank you, Lily, and our gratitude to you for your presence, your voice, and your activism. Thank you so much. And indeed, thanks for the reminder that hope must live alongside carrying the pain. Thank you so much, Lily. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. We're not doing great on time, but I am so grateful for everyone who is here. So we'll try to still respect everybody's time and finish not too late. However, I wanted to really us to spend some time also sharing, learning from those who spend a lot of time analyzing this issue across different contexts. So I would like to invite for this panel the three speakers. I will start with Flavia Mwambovia from Amnesty International. Please join us, welcome. I would like to invite Rosaline Sekupuya from the Global Resilience Fund. Bienvenue, Rosaline. And there's a third speaker who I would like to invite, but who has asked us to remain anonymous, so I will refer to her as T, as requested, and only T, who is an activist and a researcher from Ethiopia. So T will join us, will not share her screen, so that just for security reasons, and we have to take that very seriously. Not all of us have the privilege to be able to speak like that. So is T around? Can T join us? Hello? Colleagues, do we have T? Okay. I'm hoping that T can join us shortly. This security reason is also why I tend not to introduce folks. I would like people to introduce themselves the way they feel comfortable and safe introducing themselves. I'll do the same here now. Thank you, Flavia, Rosaline, NT, when you join, hopefully shortly, for also being part of this conversation. Flavia, of course, thank you for co-hosting this with us. And I guess we want to take a little bit of time, and we don't have that much time. But we would like to, I would like to ask two sets of questions only, but important questions. So you are both working in organizations that are either analyzing, campaigning, mobilizing, or funding and supporting the work that is happening in various conflict-related contexts where sexual violence is rampant. And so, first of all, thank you so much for this work that you do. You've, along us, listened to the keynote address, the discussion from the defenders, and listening to that, but also what you are doing and seeing in your own work. The first question I have for each of you is what common threads and critical shifts you see around this issue of sexual violence in conflict. I'm going to start with maybe you, Flavia, so that when we turn to Rosaline, I just want to tell everybody that Rosaline might speak in French, and so be ready with your interpretation then. Okay, so while we do it, we start with Flavia so that you can find your interpretation button.
Thank you so much, Françoise. Just checking that you can hear me. Super. Wow. Sorry, I have to exhale at this point because I've literally just been holding my breath the entire time since we began this conversation. And the reason I'm holding my breath is that it's not shifting. It's the same things we're seeing, and we're seeing them for decades over. And yeah, it takes a toll. It takes a toll. It takes a toll in terms of our ability to process. But I really just want to first of all honor and all the victims and survivors who are here, who have spoken to us, and who have also interacted with Amnesty International as it does its work over the years. And there are many, and there are many. I took time to go back to the archives because I was really curious to see when did we start engaging on the issue of conflict-related sexual violence or crimes. Or sexual and gender-based crimes in conflict, and it dates back. And I only managed to start from the 2000s, and it really dates back. And I've also noted the catch line, never again. And yet, our analysis is saying that the thing that is really finishing us in this continent when it comes to sexual violence is impunity. The impunity and the normalization of sexual violence is a thing that's really, really taking us back, and we're not making motions that are actually positive and something that can encourage us that is something that will shift. And even when I was trying to prepare for this session, I asked myself, how does one speak in a way that hangs on to hope, but at the same time doesn't minimize the experiences of survivors? Because I'm one who's always struggling between how do we not cause, like trauma kind of bonding, and really how many stories do we have to tell of survivors? How many accounts do we have to share? How many survivors have to open up the most intimate, most painful aspects of their lives for us to say, enough, let's move forward? And at the same time, you also want to honor those experiences because they add to the layers of information, of analysis, of statistics that enable us to take action. But at what point do we now say, guys, we are really, really in an emergency? I really thought about that. What needs to shift in this moment that we are in that can enable us to sufficiently articulate the urgency that is in front of us? Are the statistics going to be the one? Is it our language and the narratives we use? Is it the words we pick? I'm hearing epidemic. I'm hearing weapon of war. I'm hearing persecution. I'm hearing statistics. I'm hearing apartheid. I'm hearing all manner of things, words that are trying to really shift and elevate the conversation beyond the norm, because what we are facing in this region and world over when it comes to conflict-related sexual violence is not norm. But unfortunately, it's been normalized. So the connecting threads, Francois, if I was to try and connect them, because that's the question that I've been asked. One of them is really the question of the patriarchy, gender inequality. And I think that cannot be overemphasized, but I'll not go in there because I think Lema did a fantastic job of demonstrating how if we do not fix society during relative peace, I'm yet to find one country that's peaceful, but that's I'm putting in quotes, relative peace, then it means when you get into conflict, you amplify. And I'll actually just read a quote from a doctor in the DRC in 2004 who spoke to Amnesty and said, in peacetime, the demands on Congolese women are limitless. But in this war, the most insane fantasies have found their expression. When 7 soldiers rape a woman or a little girl and thrust a knife or fire shots into her vagina, for them, the woman is no longer a human being. She's an object. And since there are no longer any laws or rules, combatants pour out their anger and their madness onto women and little girls. That, for me, is that normalization. It's an amplification of the thoughts and ideas that people have during normal times and how they play out on women's bodies and girls' bodies during conflict. And what does this lead to? It's a failure to investigate, failure to ensure justice and accountability, and impunity. Another girl who spoke to Amnesty in DRC in 2004 said, I wish that these soldiers could be put in prison. If they were arrested, then I would have peace. Her name is Beatrice. She was raped in the fields. She was 12 years old in 2004. The question for all of us, where is Beatrice today? When you talk about impunity, that's the question. So when I was reading through all these reports that Amnesty has been working on for years, the question I kept asking, where is this person? Where is this girl? Where is this woman? What do they think of the world? What do they think of the rest of us? Wondering when things will shift and make sense in terms of justice and accountability. So the other thread that is there is that survivors' immediate needs are not being met. There's lack of adequate medical care, humanitarian assistance, is really insufficient, and this adds to the trauma and to the violations that these women and girls are facing. For example, in Ethiopia in 2021, Amnesty found that women who are raped by the soldiers could not get medical treatment because they were too afraid to approach medical centers if the soldiers were there. And for those in rural areas, there were no facilities at all, as the mobile clinics did not function. The survivors consistently described how they were unable to obtain timely medical treatment and support. And many of them said the fear of stigma and fears over their privacy were some of the factors that led them not to come forward and speak out. So I have here Selamawit, 20-year-old domestic worker, who said she's now pregnant due to the rape, but isn't able to access medical services, does not even know where to go for those medical services. That is in 2021. We're in 2025. The question is asked, where is Selamawit today? And what does she think about what happened to her in 2020? In Sudan, in the report that we released in 2025 this year, all the survivors we spoke to, all of them said none of them had accessed medical care. None of them. So the question becomes, is it because it's not available? Is it because the medical system and the health institutions are broken down? Is it because of stigma? Is it because of fear? But this is a connecting thread around the experiences of women and girls in the region in terms of accessing medical care and humanitarian assistance. The third common thread is really the toll, the physical toll, the mental toll, and the psychological distress. And add to that, the abandonment due to stigma. I think that's one area that we really also need to stress on, because in South Sudan in 2017, I'll give you some examples. The key finding of the report by Amnesty was that sexual violence on a massive scale was leaving thousands of women and girls in mental distress. Nyabake, who's 24 when this report was being released, was gang raped by government soldiers at a checkpoint in Juba in July 2016. She said that she can no longer sleep for more than 3 hours a night because of nightmares. She said she always feels the soldiers are coming back. DRC 2004, survivor is saying, please tell them that rape is not adultery. Please tell them that rape is not adultery. The whole idea that survivors are experiencing widespread discrimination and rejection by their communities, including insults and threats. Large numbers of survivors have been abandoned by their husbands and left as sole carers of their children. Fast forward to 2025, when the report was released on Sudan, we have survivors saying, I was abandoned. My husband left me because of as a result of the rape. And another one also saying, I have a child out of the rape, but I have not told anyone because of the same fear of abandonment. Estelle, a girl who's 12 in DRC in 2004, also said, I don't feel brave enough to go to school. The other girls in the neighborhood make fun of me. They call me the little girl who sleeps with soldiers in the forest. I try to hide. That is in 2004. In Pauline, who's 40, in 2002, who was raped, said that I was married, but my husband abandoned our 3 children and me. He said I was contaminated by disease and he was afraid of me. He got married to a young girl. When I walk, I have to hold my abdomen with my skirt because it hurts so much. I cannot walk very far now as soldiers took everything. I can hardly manage to look out for my children. And the last example on that one is that the question of stigma, when we did a report in 2023 in Kishishe, where M23 soldiers were raping women and killing their husbands, the stigma and fear of being a widow, the idea that my husband has killed was more paralyzing for women than the idea that they're actually being violated sexually. Society does not look at a woman who's a widow in a way that she's a complete person. So some of the women who spoke to were actually more scared of the widowhood compared to the situation that they had faced in terms of the sexual violence. The other factor is looting and stealing and disruption of livelihoods. That one is a big one, especially with what we've seen in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, we have Bersabe, who told Amnesty International, and this is around 2020, that she had to make a difficult choice between her health and her livelihood. Sorry, that was my timer telling me that I've done 10 minutes. She had to make a difficult choice between her health and her livelihood. She rejected the medical advice to be admitted for treatment because she had to work to sustain herself. She said, they asked me to be admitted to the health center, but I couldn't. I have problems eating and I have other problems too. No one can help me. They told me that the wound in my stomach had developed a complication. I needed to stay in hospital. And she had to turn that down because it was not something that she could consider because her livelihood was at stake. And this was actually a recurrent pattern because you could hear women saying that the TPLF fighters looted their homes. Survivors, many of whom are living hand to mouth, paid lowly, informal jobs, but their businesses have been looted. Some of them have lost their jewelry, their rings, their stock, the alcohol, and everything. So at that point, you're left in a situation where you have to make a call. Do I continue trying to salvage myself economically and financially, or do I take time to recover from the situation that I face? And lastly, the connecting thread for me, which I think is a highlight for me and that keeps me going even as Flavia as I look at this, is the resilience and the solidarity. When you look at all this heartbreaking, I do not even know how to characterize it because, as I said, I'm still looking for the word to highlight the emergency that we face on this matter. But when I look at it, I see women, girls, women's rights organizations, women-led organizations, allies and partners forging ahead, trying to recenter our agency and trying to say we shall resolve our problems amongst ourselves. And in this regard, we have Etsegenet in Ethiopia who said, I live with my friends who eat when they have something to eat and we sleep when there is no food. I am now in the camp and we are supporting each other. Another one who says, when I was not able to walk, a woman found me and she took me to a house and washed my body. Then she took me to a private clinic. Another one who says, I have received support, including spare clothes, educational materials. I also received psychological counseling. The support was given by Meza. I don't know who she is, who she works for. She came from Addis. She's a journalist. This is her testimony. And then Bemnet is saying, the neighbors contributed 10 bir each to buy me medicine. The pharmacy owner in the town said I could have died. I bought the medicine. It was 150 bir. The diarrhea stopped after I took the medicine. And in Sudan, we are saying the emergency response rooms, the women at the forefront who are risking their lives to continue to stand in solidarity with survivors are also paying the price with their own lives. In the Amnesty report that we released this year for Sudan, it actually shows women who are on the front line, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, also experiencing sexual violence as a punishment for actually putting their lives to the fore. The reprisals they're facing includes sexual violence because they have dared to stand in the space where others may not have done that for the survivors. In conclusion, I think it is not all doom and gloom, but we have to stand together. For me, the shifts, Francoise, as I close, are the multilateral system right now is broken. When you look at the situation we're in globally and internationally, when you listen to Donald Trump telling Greta Thunberg that she's an angry young woman, I am angry. I join her in the anger. And I'm happy to be characterized as such if that means that we can actually stand in the fold, in the space, and actually take action. We're in a deals-based era. It's the deals. It's Trump making a deal with DRC. It's Trump making a deal with the Qataris. It's the Qataris doing this. It's the Americans doing that. If we do not actually find a way to have people-to-people solidarity, connect our struggles in this region, stop the isolation, the cases, the DRC, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan, Central African Republic, etc., may be different contexts, but our struggles can be connected. We can show up as Africans and show up for ourselves and take action for ourselves. That's, for me, the thing that needs to shift, especially in an era where the attention span is very short. If you get a media moment, it's like 30 seconds it goes. Before you get it back, it will be at Gaza, it will be at Ukraine. You will not get it back anytime soon. Let us stand in solidarity with each other. Let us see what we can do collectively about the situation of sexual violence. And we at Amnesty, there's lots of information, there's lots of research. We continue to push for accountability. We continue to push for something to give. And we are happy to explore how we work closer with organizations like-minded as yourselves and the survivors groups and the women-led organizations to see how we can move this forward. Thank you so much. I'll pass it over to Rosalind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rosalie, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Speaking in French?
No, I will speak in English. I have prepared English, so it will just
You
take a
know,
lot of
Rosalina
mental
is
work
doing the work
to
for all of you. Thank you, Rosalina. Over to you.
thank a lot to Flavia and everyone that has shared on the panel today. It's not easy to talk about our own trauma or people like other people trauma, especially if you live in or if we work in a conflict affected zone. So I would like to send a lot of love to all of those persons and everyone in the chats in this webinar. We send a lot of love and solidarity. So my name is Rosalind. I speak from the Global Resilience Fund, which is a collaborative feminist fund. And our particularity is like we resources girls especially. So our main target population is girls under 19. We make sure that we dedicate the majority of our funding to them. And before answering Francois' question, I would like to share a little overview of what's happening in the Sahel region. We talk about Ethiopia, Sudan, DRC, but I would like to share a little bit about the Sahel region, then I will reply to your question, Francoise. So for those who do not know, Sahel is like a geographic region, geographic, but also a political region, which stretch across West Africa to Central Africa, including countries like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, Northern Nigeria, Mauritania, and some parts of Northern Togo and Northern Benin, because what is happening in the Sahel region is now touching or affecting those limited countries. And currently, Sahel is one of the most unstable and really militarized zone in the world today, which is marked a lot by terrorist armed groups that are controlling territory, attacking school, health center, and communities. And it's also marked by political and economic instabilities and also a lot of military coups. So economic instability, because there are some countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that have decided to be outside, like that, to remove themselves from the ECOWAS, which is economic commission of the West African. So it's bring a lot of economic sanction toward these countries. And we know even if we talk about economic or political like conflicts, women are the one who take the hit the most. So let's be clear, Sahel is not just unstable. Currently, we are seeing the conflict is allowing the fact that there is like a coordinated collapse of women's and girls' rights in the region. And one of the drivers of the conflict in that region is like groups are saying they need to detach themselves from Western democratic values, from Western controls. And usually that means that they are not only trying to take or to shift the political power, but they are trying to reinforce the control over the bodies of girls and women and eliminating anything that seems or is look like a Western values or a deviation, for example, queerness or women's rights or women participating in politics. And in this context, you can imagine women's and girls' rights are being like systematically dismantled. They are even used as tools, not only as tools of war, but as tools to being elected. People have campaigns around the fact that they want to remove the rights of queer people. And this, we believe that this movement is coordinated because it's usually starts subtly by maybe a Ministry of Women's Affairs is quietly dissolved, and then they reduce the age of legal marriage, and then they give full parental authority to men. And maybe for some country like Niger, Islam will be declared like the dominant religion, and that will be used to justify to criminalize abortion, etc., and homosexuality. And this all around is around African values, traditional values, to just justify that they want to take control over people's body. So I just wanted for us to connect the fact that countries in conflicts, like it's just like a good space for other people to remove the rights of girls and women. And what we have heard from Sudan and DRC, how the sexual violence is weaponized, is the same in the Sahel region. It's like quite the same. As Flavia said, like our struggle is connected. And today, for example, not today, but at the moment, one of our partners from Niger share how over 1,500 schools are closed currently, and almost 12,000 girls are out of school. And these girls are abducted by the armed group, not just to instill terror in the community, but those girls are used as like those girls are abducted for them to be able to cook for the terrorists, to care for them, to give birth, because one ideology also for around the terrorist group are the fact that they need to produce more soldiers. So they're abducting girls and make them bear their child for them to be able to increase their manpower. So we can see that gender-based violence is not only a consequences of the conflict, but is used like a long-term strategy for them to sustain their power and dominance. And what I can add also is, and with all that, justice is not, it's really difficult for, in this context, to bring perpetrator in face of justice or make them accountable of their act. Why? Because justice system across the region, and I think across Africa, is broken even before the conflict, is almost non-existent. Because either because the crime is seen as normal or is shut down. It's like they will say, oh, we don't have time for the yet. We are in war, we are in crisis. There is a bigger issue of poverty. We need to detach ourselves from Western control. So everything linked to women, sexual violence, we will look for it later. So they push women, girls' rights for later. Like it's something we can like dispose for now, is the consequences, but it's not important. And so if I will stop for here for the Sahel overview. And to answer the question of Francoise, one of the first trends I'm seeing is, as I was explaining before, the sexual violence is not only happening as an episode. It's like a system, it's like a strategy they are using. It doesn't start when the conflict starts. It's already there. It's already affecting the daily lives of women, girls, queer, trans rights, and war only magnifies it. It makes it more visible, more brutal, but also more silenced, because in the war, when we are in war, some media are censored. Activists that are trying to document are censored, are reprimanded, are kidnapped. So that's one of the traits that I'm seeing in each conflict that we have talked about today, that sexual violence is deeply, deeply systemic, and it's here before even the war starts. The second trait I'm seeing also is the use of ideology. Maybe it doesn't come a lot while sharing in this space today, but with the work or with what my partner are sharing with me, one of the common traits is that there is a use of ideology, African value, religion, culture, nationalism. Those ideologies are used to justify the control over the bodies of women and queer people, whether it's in the form of anti-rights laws, rollback on extraterrestrial rights, erasing queer people existence. All those attacks are coordinated under an ideology just to make it seem like they want the good of the population in general, but women and queer can suffer for now because the ideology is more important. And a third trait, and the last trait that I will talk about, is how the civic space is shrinking. It's also shrinking for feminist resistance. Activists now are criminalized. Like some acts or some campaign that few years ago could have gone through, like, yes, people can understand that, yes, this is violence, this is activists taking a stand against violence, is quickly politicized. So activists are even, in some countries, activists are even afraid to speak. One of our partners in DRC has to flee the country because before the war restarted in February, she was engaged in some court case on sexual violence. She was a survivor herself, and she was engaged on those kind of case. And when the war started again, because some of the prisoners were freed, they start attacking her. They start looking for the leader of this court case, and she has to flee because of that. And this shrinking of civic space is really affecting how activists and feminists and groups are organizing on the ground. And now, in terms of critical shifts, I can also say that at the same time that there is the shrinking of this civic space, young feminist movements are getting louder, more bolder, more like unapologetic. They are not even it's like when Flavia say, yes, I am hungry. So the kind of thing that we are seeing, where they are not going to like let people like focus on people understanding their fight or their stance, but they are no, this is wrong and we are taking a stand about it, and they are redefining what justice looks like, refusing to wait for permission. If the government or some organizations are not going to take a stand, young feminist organizing are taking a stand. And one shift also is, but it's also linked to the fact that we don't have a proper system in our country, in Africa, in Sahel, in conflict. We don't have a proper system to punish sexual violence, and to also create, like, we don't have mechanisms of healing or documentation of putting survivor in safety. We just praise how resilient they are and we stop there. But there is no system or institution that is put in place, like a formal justice system or an informal justice system, to protect the survivor. So survivors are no longer waiting for institutions to respond. They are just going on with their life. That's why someone will receive to be admitted at the hospital after a sexual violence, because she has to work. So this is also a shit we have to look closer. And to finish, I would say that I have connected deeply with what Lima shared at the start of this meeting. The truth is, sexual violence doesn't begin with the war. It's already rooted in our community, in our home. So why do we expect a system that fails to protect survivors in like time of peace to protect them when there is war? And we have to think about that. We need to confront the justice system and let the rape go unpunished, even in peace of time. So our work, or our like taking the stand, is not only when there's a conflict in a country or in a zone. That is really important, but we have to start thinking about like what are we doing right now. We need to start dismantling the rape culture and the impunity that has become the norm in our society, not just in war. So because I think that unless we undo or dismantle the ideologies and the mentalities that make it possible for people to see women's and queer bodies as tools, as weapons, we will continue to have the same situation. We will continue commemorating the same day, because we do not address the problem at the beginning. So while I would just invite you, while we are looking about how to fight impunity in conflict zone, we also have to start at how we are going to dismantle sexual violence from the beginning, like currently for the countries that are in peace right now. And this demands a lot of political courage and feminist courage to show up every day, to choose, show up on how we choose to work, how we choose to be within our community, how we choose to speak out and to act. Because only saying that we stand in solidarity with people won't solve the problem. We really need to show up by acting. So I will end with that. We should stop. We should have more courage. We should refuse neutrality. If we see something happen, we should name it. We should name state violence. We should protect our activists. We should question people with accountability, even if justice systems do not exist or are not performative in our country right now. So I will end there, and thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind. I'm glad I was about to interrupt you, but I'm glad I didn't, because you asked a very critical question about our expectations. What can we expect in war from systems who do nothing in time of peace? And thank you for also ending on courage, the feminist courage. And feminism, as I said, with our partners every single day, is nothing but courage, especially in conflict-related spaces. Thank you, Rosalind. And I know that it wasn't easy for you to do this in English, and so I appreciate you for that. Bravo, thank you. I think that we have T in our webinar, but we are not able to spotlight, which is okay, because T wasn't going to speak on video anyway. I know we have time, but it's very, very important that we hear from you, T. So please, if you are here, can you open your mic and share your views as well? Are you here, T?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm back. Yeah. This is T joining from Tigray, Ethiopia. I want first to express my gratitude to be part of this event in commemorating the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence, which we are marking in the 10th anniversary, with a theme actually, end the impunity. Actually, it has to end, at least at this time. Yeah, justice should be served. And as a researcher in the area of SGBV, I would like to share with you the sexual violence that has been suffered by women and girls in Tigray since the outbreak of the war which has been waged by the federal government upon that region, and the quest for justice by the survivors. So to start with, the war that has been broken out in the northern part of Ethiopia, a certain region called Tigray. It has started in November 2022, Gregorian calendar. This war has caused serious violences against women and girls in the region. Women and girls have suffered all the 6 forms of violences, but predominantly they have been subjected to rapes and gang rapes, including the sexual slavery. As Rosalind has been speaking, these females were considered as slaves, not only sexually, they also were forced to work for the perpetrators. They will do everything as an object of the perpetrators. On top of that, they have to serve them for the sexual satisfaction. It might go for weeks or for months, according to the research I have undertaken. On top of that, they were totally banned from the basic resources they want to, especially the medical services. In this regard, thanks even Amnesty International, because there are members here I can see, it has researched out that the medical centers have been destroyed at that time so that they couldn't have the medical assistance. Even if there were undestroyed ones, they were banned from getting these medical assistances. These survivors were burned by chemicals and they were killed during the assault, during the incidents. The woman's body was not considered as their own. Rather, it was used as a battlefield by the assailants. And the researchers I have been through has shown that horrific sexual abuses, including gang raping of 9 months pregnant women, lactating women, a day or 2 days, lactating women, and children was a common phenomenon at that time in Tigray. Gang rapes were commonest and most frequent. Nuns and the conservative religious mothers who served in the churches, they were gang raped within that holy place, within the place that even we do not dare to enter without getting out of our shoes. They were perpetrated within that holy place. HIV positive soldiers were deliberately selected and deployed to rape women and girls. And you might be surprised, in a certain district that I have researched, 210 women and girls have reported to the office I was working. And from these 210 survivors, 57 of them happen to be HIV positive. And if you calculate, it amounts to 28.35% of, this is in one district. This is in one district. And you can imagine what will be the outcome in the other districts. Yeah. What the terrible thing is that family members were forced to see the rape, the incidents under a gunpoint. The worst is these family members were ordered to rape their own family members. The father to his daughter and the brother to his sister under a gunpoint. And in case they reject doing so, they will get the last price. That is, they will be murdered. They will be murdered. And you can see a number of girls which have been raped by their close family members in our case. Another thing to share with you, though I might be traumatizing you, because we have to be the voice of the voiceless, perpetrators have inserted foreign objects to the survivor's vagina and anus during that incident. They have used objects like the razor blades. You can see how it harms here. A knife, the military tool, nails, sharp and hot metallic bars, sand, gravel, tissue paper, used condoms, sticks, and the worst is dead animal body. Dead snake has been inserted. This is a recent finding by our research. Dead animal body has been inserted into the vagina of a woman in Tigray by the perpetrators, by the armed perpetrators. Moreover, the survivors also, they were suffered by other chemicals. For example, some liquids and chemicals that they couldn't identify have been poured into their vagina. Yeah, perpetrators have deliberately cut the vagina of the women and girls without raping them with their penis. You see, if it is to satisfy their sexual feelings, it could have been through their penis, guys. Try to understand, guys. Without raping them with their penis, they came and hold their legs and they try to cut their vaginas without raping them physically, As a result of all these sufferings, at this time, many have lost their life. They have died in the hands of the perpetrators, especially the little ones, especially the minor ones, because they couldn't resist it, they couldn't tolerate it. So, under our research, there are 9 years of age children, up to 13 years of age, who have died in the hands of the perpetrators while their family were watching that incident, because they were running from their home, they were displacing to another, then they were found in the middle, and you see, they have been raped through gang rapes, and as a result, they have died. By the way, when I am saying gang rapes, yeah, I understand it starts with 2, but in Tigray, you can find women who have been gang raped with around 50 perpetrators per survivor, especially in cases of sexual slavery, especially in cases where these survivors are caught around checkpoints and in the prison sites, because everybody can use their body, And as a result of this, as I have said, many have died, many have lost their life, many have been physically disabled, many have been rendered infertile because of the uterine collapse it might be difficult to understand unless you are medical experts. Uterine prolapse is getting the uterus, you see, getting out of its place, so that there is a possibility for the uterus to be removed. So if it's removed, it gives rise to infertility. There are uterine inconsistencies, unwanted pregnancies, obviously, miscarriage of pregnancies because pregnancies were also targeted. And the worst is there is unexpected child from the perpetrator. As I have said earlier, because there was no medical assistance at that time, either because it has been destroyed or because they have been prevented by the assailants, they couldn't get, you see, the medicine that prevents the pregnancy even after the sexual intercourse. So as a result, they are forced to have the perpetrators' offsprings, and it's very common, especially if you research in the IDP sites, in the internally displaced persons campus, you can see that there are children of the perpetrators. Apart from this, these survivors have been subjected to serious mental health problems. And you can see that we don't have survivors, or the number of survivors which do not take medication for their mental health is very negligible, very negligible. From this research I have been taking part, if you can see, 79% of them, they are persons, or they are survivors with serious kind of mental health, which took the highest dose for their mental well-being. And the 22%, they are they are mild persons with mild stress. All in all, 97% of them, they are under medical treatment. So the remaining 3% only are not getting medication that we can say they are okay, mentally speaking. On top of this mental health problems, they are socially rejected. Given the norm and the culture we are having. They are being rejected not only by the society around, they are rejected even by their own parents. I have come to an incident whereby the mother has get rid of her own child who happened to be a survivor of gang rape. You know, because she has been gang raped, she has developed a kind of trauma, and she doesn't know what she is doing unless she take the medicines. So she has forgotten to take those tablets, and because she cannot control her emotions, she has fought with her mom, and she wants to choke her mother. Then the mother, because she has been angry at her daughter, she has called a police to get rid of her own child who has been a survivor. So it's not only the neighbors or the community around, even parents, they are stigmatizing, they are rejecting their own raped daughters. And there is high divorce rate. As far as the husband knows the fact that she is a survivor, he doesn't want to continue the marriage with her. And as a result, we are having high divorce rates, and you can imagine what divorce can bring about. The family will be destroyed, and you can have a lot of street children throughout the towns of Tigray, which could be as a result of this divorce. Many of them were displaced. You might be familiar with the Tigrayan case. One zone has been still under the non-Tigrayan administration. The Tigrayan administration could not access the western Tigray, and we don't know what is still happening to the community there. and many have been displaced from that area. They have lost their properties, or their properties has been destroyed. They are unable to work given the violences they are suffered without having the medical treatments. So they are economically dependent at this time. They are economically dependent. Despite all these sufferings, these survivors couldn't be able to get the basic necessities, as my friends have been referring earlier. They didn't get adequate medical services. The humanitarian assistance has been stopped. It has been stopped. There is no shelter. And terribly, they are suffering from getting justice, from justice being served. And they are in the quest for the justice. Actually, it's good that the Ethiopian government has come up with the transitional justice policy right after the Pretoria Agreement. And this transitional justice policy, it has been adopted in April 2024. But this policy is too far from serving justice to the survivors of sexual violence here in Tigray. This is because that transitional justice, it derogates the inclusivity principle. While the very base for the transitional justice is the Pretoria Agreement, it has not represented the women from Tigray. They were not represented. The other is this transitional policy, it has excluded the international involvement. This undermines the credibility of the process. As we can see, it is the federal government who has waged the war on the Tigray. It is as a result of this war that Tigrayan women have been subjected to the sexual violence. So we do not expect justice from the very institution which has created that chaos. So because no one can be a judge in its own case, there is a need for international involvement. Impartial, independent justice machineries should be implemented. And as you can see, the policy, it doesn't allow for this international involvement. It narrows only to justice to be brought up by the domesticated machineries, which the survivors have lost their trust.
Thank
The
you,
other
T.
is,
T, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because we are over time, can I just give you 1 or 2 minutes to wrap up? Sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt because of what you're sharing, but I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time and everyone else. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually finalizing. I'm left with 2 points only. The other point that as a researcher, I would like to raise this in relation to the insufficient, the transitional justice policy has given insufficient focus on sexual violence, where the central government or high-level perpetrators could be answerable to what has happened to women and girls in Tigray. It's not gendered. Yeah, it has not sufficiently covered the sexual violence which has been used as a weapon for the war. Lastly, this transitional justice policy could not effectively force the non-Ethiopian assailants to face justice, because in Tigrayan case, it was not only the federal government who has been fighting against the Tigrayan people. Rather, there were externals. There were other countries who, in one way or the other, have been committing such international violations. So this transitional justice policy cannot bring these guys into justice. All in all, these sexual violence survivors couldn't get justice unless independent investigations and independent machineries are in place. That's it. And in order to have justice, please, let's join hands. Let's show solidarity for Tigrayan girls and women, and also for African women and girls. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, T, for what you shared. As you were speaking, I was thinking this is horrible to hear. And I'm thinking about how even more horrible it is to experience and to work on and to document. Thank you for your presence here and for your voice and for what you shared. We are 15 minutes over time, so it is my duty to ask us to exhale and to wrap up this conversation. We have to wrap up this conversation. We cannot wrap up all the conversations that we need to continue having today. So I'm hoping that this is just one of the many conversations. As I wrap up, I want to share a few things before I share some a round of thank yous. You all have spoken in the past couple of hours about the root causes. You've spoken about the manifestations, you've spoken about the impacts, and you've spoken about what to do. And we were all taking notes, and I was thinking we need to bring this all together, and so that we all know what we are sharing, and also based on everybody who shared some experiences in the chat from Mozambique to Tanzania. We really appreciate it. We want to bring it up together because there's never enough time to have this conversation online. But one of the things that really struck me as you all were sharing is not just like the cruelty of what is experienced, how it is not, it's not simply something that happens by mistake or just by happenstance. It is, as you all shared, a deliberate strategy of, I don't even know what to say, deliberate strategy of war, I suppose is how they think about it, almost extermination. You spoke about all different types of impacts, from economic to losing lives, to destroying minds, and to the stigma that is experienced. You've spoken about the work that you all do and your partners do, from the research, the activism, and the importance of funding. And we noted the messages that the call for action to funders that are in the chat, and we want to also document that and share those as well. I will end with the point that you made about what we all can do, about being inspired by the courage of feminists, especially young feminists who have decided not to wait for permission, not to wait or to put our expectations in the hands of broken systems that have failed us again and again. You have encouraged us to be in solidarity, you know, and you shared some examples, Flavia, about like the small instances of solidarity, so that we don't always have to wait for a big, you know, savior. What we're hearing from feminists and every day, that the hope is in remembering that we ourselves are the actors of the justice that we seek. Of course, we need support, we need systems, we need safety. I mean, somebody spoke about reprisals. What is the cost of the activism? We don't take that for granted. But thank you so much for sharing all of that. And you've shared about resilience. Resilience is not my favorite word when we talk about African women, especially, but it resonated with me a lot today. The idea that, yes, we must maintain hope. As we heard sung beautifully earlier, a change is going to come. We will not wait for the change, we will be the change. And thank you all for already being the change with all of your work. Thank you everybody who has joined this discussion, for being the change in all the ways that you are already. I'm really looking forward to continuing this conversation. We will follow up by email, sharing some of the resources that were shared and more, hoping that we don't come back in a year or 10 years or 20 years, as Flavia said, reading the same reports about the same exactions in the ground, but we want to know what we're talking about. There's so much that we don't know. As I was listening, that's what came back. And this is what we have been able to see, and there's so much else that we don't see because of what is being deliberately ignored. Yeah, so let me stop here. I know that this is a continuum of actions that we need to do. So we want to be able to continue doing that. Interestingly, Flavia reminded us this morning that tomorrow is World Refugee Day. And you were saying this to us before this webinar, and how many of the refugees that we will be, whose experience will be acknowledging tomorrow are also, you know, survivors of sexual violence and conflict. But also it's a reminder that we talk about this in a very localized way. This is happening in this, but we know this is all of our issues because those refugees are our neighbors. They are in our villages, they are next to us, they work with us. And so we really look forward to sharing some invitations that we'll do in the next 24 hours or so by email for how to continue this conversation out of this webinar, online and beyond. So we will do that shortly. For now, I would say just 1 minute to say thank you to you all, of course, to the partners who have co-convened. Sorry, my voice is shaking because I am a bit shaken by this conversation. I'm not going to lie. But thank you to the colleagues of AWDF, of course, the colleagues from Amnesty International, and the colleagues from the Women's International Peace Center. It has been beautiful to see you all and all of us working together. I hope we can do more of that. Thank you for the interpreters in all the languages, including sign languages, allowing us to have all of us being in this conversation without the silos of and the barriers of language. I loved seeing the comments in Portuguese and having to go and translate them because I don't speak Portuguese. I just love that we are able to do that. May we continue to show up together to embody the feminist courage that is needed. And it was quoted earlier that still we rise, we rise, we rise. We rise by doing this work together. That's the only way we rise. So I'm really looking forward to continuing this work with all of you. Thank you so very much for your time, for what you've shared, and what we will continue to do later. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you, Frances, for the
Of your day.
facilitation.
Thank you so much.
Francois, you're on mute.
Muted, Francois.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, I think we can stop the live streaming